You are now listening to OE Up with Jonathan Lymon.
Name is Jonathan Lymon of the Jonathan Lymon Brand YouTube channel, and I am also on the OE Up network on Facebook. And what I'm here today to do is, we gotta talk about it, man. We got to talk about everything that's going on in the world of sports and other stuff. So what I need you all to do is sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. So to get this going, what really hadn't been sitting right with me over the past couple of weeks was after the Super Bowl, people really wanted to make these baseless comparisons of Cooper Dejean. And I was like, somebody has to hold these people accountable for the things they say, because they don't really think anything about them, but what they are saying is very hurtful to the people of the past. And we can't ignore our past, how bad it was, or even how good it was, just by making these weird comments. So if you don't know what I'm talking about Crane & Company did a video about how they basically were trying to compare Cooper Dejean to Jackie Robinson. I think they were joking, but I was like, nah, man, that ain't it. We can't allow people to get away with saying things like this, because when we do this, they feel like they can say anything they want. And like, no. That ain't how I roll. And I know that's not how many people roll like that. So, and one of my issues about that was about that to the attention of someone to our local sports radio station, because they have the Crane & Company guys on that network a lot. And they were basically dismissive. They were like, yeah, whatever, basically. And I'm like, okay, so if you're not going to show us the respect, we're going to have to go out and do our own platforms and tell our stories the way they should be told, and to make sure that you all know you can't disrespect us by making these jokes, claiming to be, just jokes. Like, no, that's not how that goes. So, among plenty other reasons, but this was the main reason why I was like, I have to step up, because we need a voice. And something that I've been trying to do for years when it comes to the sports radio in our area is to really go out there and try to be that voice. And they just don't get it. They don't understand their demographics well. And then when you try to explain it to them, it's like, oh, well, our ratings are sky high. I'm like, it doesn't matter if your ratings are sky high. They could be even better. Because I know plenty of people who want to listen. But when they listen, they're like, nah, dog, that ain't it. So that's where OE Up comes in. For the people who want to listen to the local sports, but feel like they don't have a place to listen. Oh, you do now. We're about to do something very special, and I'm so excited for that. And this is really the first episode of me really going in this direction. So with that being said, I had to put everything out there as part of the reasoning to do this, because when they don't want to give you an opportunity, you have to go out and make your own opportunity. And that's what we're doing now. And what I want to do, something that I always love to do, because I always love to show love to the past, shout outs to the past. And like I've been saying, without the past, we wouldn't be where we are now. So you always have to show love to the past. Speaking of the past, if you want to know a way you can show love to the past, it's going over to 80tees.com. When you go over to 80tees.com, you can pick up all kind of nice shirts from the 80s. They've been with me for a while now. I always show them love, so big ups to them. So if you want to pick up something nice to remind you of the good old days, 80tees.com. Me personally, I picked up the Oh Yeah Macho Man Randy Savage shirt, and I love it. I would have worn it today, but it's cold, and I had to have a hoodie on. But shout outs to 80Ts for being a believer in the brand very early on. So I wanted to give the shout outs. Shout outs to the Mobile Hall of Famers, because I feel like they don't get the love that they should. And I remember the reason that this has become a passion project for me, because I remember years ago when I was still young, I would listen to the Dan Patrick Show. And Dan Patrick had Buck O'Neill on his show. And it was, in my opinion, the greatest interview I've ever heard. The storytelling and just how great he was at doing everything made me realize this is what I want. I want to hear stories. I want to know about the past. I want to know, oh, they did this and how this person was in the locker room. Those are great stories that get looked over nowadays because everybody wants to argue, put out hot takes that are not really hot. So they don't even put out hot takes anymore. They put up lukewarm takes, and you just push it over and over and over again to the point where you get sick of it and be like, all right, yeah, I'm whatever you say, I believe it. And that's not how we should do this. We need to understand the past was great. So when I was listening to Buck O'Neill, I was like, man, this was great. And I always remember that interview. So I would fast forward when Hank Aaron passed away. I actually called a local radio station. I was like, hey, Hank Aaron was from Mobile. Obviously, we all know this. Do you all have any old interviews of Hank Aaron that you all may have saved? Because if you do, that would have been a great tribute to play those interviews so we can look back at his career and everything. They basically told me, nope, we don't have anything. I was like, yeah. Well, somebody dropped the ball on that one. So, I mean, people have done stuff since that point, not necessarily in this area. I mean, I think they have a new park, or they got some memorial of these Hall of Famers. So shout outs to that. That's came up this year. So big ups to Mobile for that. But I just want to talk about these guys for a little bit. I want to give these guys their flowers. And that's something that I'm going to do every single episode, is give somebody their flowers, give somebody a shout out. Because if everybody else don't appreciate what you've done, I just want to make sure everybody knows that I appreciate what they did. So we're going to go through a few of these guys right now. Hank Aaron was born February 5th, 1934, right here in Mobile, Alabama. He made his Major League Baseball debut April 13th, 1954. And in 1957, he won the MVP and the World Series, beating the Yankees. He's one of 7 players with 3,000 hits and 500 home runs. And on April 8th, 1974, Hank Aaron hits his 715th home run as he passed the great Babe Ruth in that mark. You gotta give a big shout outs for him doing that, because when it comes to baseball, Babe Ruth, the legend that is Babe Ruth, that's a big time guy. So the hate he was receiving for that is tremendous. All the death threats, that's something that we have to always think about when he did this. Like, people weren't happy about this. Man, you were passing the Babe. They were like, oh no, don't you pass the Babe. You ought to retire right now. We don't want to take care of you. The Babe is the greatest of all time. Did I actually see him play? No, but he's the greatest because he's the Babe. So you had to deal with all of that, and you still did your thing. And he ended up with 755 home runs. Hank Aaron did. He ended up going in the Hall of Fame in 1982. He won 3 Gold Gloves. He selected to 25 All-Star games. And if you're wondering how is he selected to 25 All-Star games, back in the day, Major League Baseball, basically kind of for a money thing, to make sure the players got paid good, we actually have 2 All-Star games. So that was the reason why the All-Star games selections were so high. Like, he ain't played that long. Like, so that's the reason why for that. But it's like, he played 21 seasons. But like, I just always wanted to show love to Hank Aaron. I mean, I know we have his home, childhood home in Mobile. We have Hank Aaron Stadium, which they don't want to do anything with that, which is a shame. Also, before I go talk about someone else, say this about Hank Aaron. Hank Aaron stood on business. Hank Aaron, in Atlanta, icon. So back in the day, it was a wrestling company, WCW, that was owned by Ted Turner, who also owned the Braves. Ted Turner, big wrestling fan. Hank Aaron was involved, with TBS and everything down there in Atlanta. He heard about the racist comments that, we're not going to say his name, that some executive in WCW made. He found out about him, basically went to Ted, went to some higher ups, and this thing you know, that guy was out of a job. Hank Aaron stood on business. He was like, I'm not somebody that's going to be played with, and I respect that. So that's why I always want to honor Hank Aaron as someone who always stood on business. So that's why I was always like, I have to stand on business when it comes to this. We have to always celebrate the legacy that he has and not let people not give him the proper love. Because in today's world, people always wants to crap on the past. But without the past, we wouldn't be here. Speaking of my next name, we got to talk about Willie McCovey, Giants legend, who, in my opinion, Hank Aaron's going to always get the love because he was the home run king until Barry Bonds came around and passed him. Barry Bonds hit most of his home runs as a Giant. And you want to know who else was a Giant? Willie McCovey. They always showed him love in San Francisco. He was born January 10th, 1938. McCovey made his Major League Baseball debut July 30th, 1959. He was the NL Rookie of the Year in 1959. Obviously, that was the year that he debuted. He won the MVP in 1969, 6-time All-Star, played 22 years at first base, and he hit 521 home runs. So big ups to Willie McCovey, Hall of Famer. Shout outs to you. We're going to talk about another Hall of Famer, Billy Williams, who was born June 15th, 1938, made his Major League Baseball debut August 6, 1969. He also is a former NL Rookie of the Year in 1961. This guy he was always playing. He played in 1,117 straight games at one point from, I don't want to get the dates wrong, 1963 to 1970. He was always on the field, which is great because you want to play. The best thing that you can do for your team is to be on the field, and that was something he did almost better than anybody. And with him, he was a 6-time All-Star, runner-up for the MVP in 1970, and in 18 years of playing baseball, he hit 426 home runs, which is a great number. He got in the Hall of Fame, so shout outs and big ups to you as well for that. You also got to talk about Satchel Paige. Satchel Paige, the legend, the Negro League legend. This guy was born in July 7th, 1906. Major League Baseball debut was 1948 at the age of 42. This man made his debut at the age of 42. Had a long career in the Negro Leagues. Great numbers. One of the GOATs of that league. His record overall was 124-82. See, and this is the craziest thing about him. He was the oldest Major League Baseball player ever at the age of 59. I'm like, and this is not like how it is now, where people are older, but they still in really good shape and look pretty good. Like, oh, you 59, you could be in your 40s. Nah, back then, it was a hard life these guys had. If you ever look at a bunch of like high school pictures of players from like, you'd be like, this guy's 22. He looks 45. What's going on? They had some hard lives, but I get it, how everything was back then. But man, for this guy to be 59 and do what he did, able to come back and play in the major leagues, like nobody's ever going to top that. During his time in the major leagues, he was a 2-time All-Star, and he also won the World Series in 1948 with the Cleveland team. But it's just like, for somebody to be that good for so long, it's like amazing. And that's something that definitely doesn't get talked about now. I mean, especially not in baseball. You see it in football some, like Tom Brady was in his mid-40s, won the Super Bowl and did everything. But other than him, and you see a few other quarterbacks play in their 40s, but it doesn't really happen too often at a high level. I mean, we're seeing it right now in basketball, where LeBron James is 40 and still playing at an extremely high level, but that's not normal. So for somebody to not even be in their 40s, to be almost 60 and to do what he did, big ups to you. I want to talk about the youngest guy on this list, which is a funny comment, in my opinion, was Ozzie Smith, who was born December 26, 1954, Major League Baseball debut April 7th, 1978, 15-time All-Star, 13-time Gold Glove winner. World Series champ 1982, 2,460 hits. He did his thing over the years, and just wanted to show him some love. Wanted to show all the love to the Hall of Famers that were all born in Mobile, Alabama. Because if they not gonna show y'all love, I'm gonna always show y'all the love. But also want to give a shout out to a few other players who weren't born in Mobile, but I just feel like I have to show them some love for talking about this. I talked about him earlier. The reason why I got so interested in the Negro Leagues, Buck O'Neil. Shout outs to Josh Gibson, who, when it comes to hitting home runs, one of the GOATs. And of course, I have to show love to Jackie Robinson and Larry Doby. And so now I feel like you all understand the reason why when people compare Jackie Robinson and Cooper Dejean, where I'm like, we can't have that. When you look at the history of what these guys went through, so for people to come along and just throw some half-hearted comment and think nothing of it, we got to hold these people accountable. Everybody wants to hold players accountable. We got to hold the media accountable for the things they say as well, because those things can be hurtful, and we ain't here for that. We're here for positivity, to have fun, and just have a good time. That's what we need. You know, we could talk junk to a degree, long as it's all in fun and not in a situation where everybody's like, man, I don't like what you said, I want to fight you. Man, it's not that serious. I'm like, we can even disagree. That's not that big of a deal. But what we can't do is call each other names and turn stuff to a negative. And that's something that was happening to me when I was trying to tell people it's not about us. It's not about me. I'm not trying to put myself over here. My main goal is to put the past over. My main goal is to put the current generation of players over, because I feel like they don't get what they should, especially in a local level. We got to put them guys over, the young generation, the high school kids that are coming up. We got to make sure they know about the past. We got to make sure they know and they understand. It's like a lot of this media, they seem like they on your side, but they not really on your side. They just want the story. It's all good and it's all fun and games when you the man. But if things don't go like they think it should for you, and your career kind of goes down, they're going to be like, on to the next one. Well, that's not what we're going to do here. We're going to show you love to everybody, build up everybody. Because my thing is, with the whole mission statement of We Up, is to make sure that we build something that, and like when I say this We Up is not meant for just one person. We Up is meant for everybody. We Up is meant for everybody to listen to and to have a great space. Because I felt like that's something that, and I've done a survey on this. I've talked to people and they've like, we really don't have a voice here. We don't really have a place that we can go to. And that's what I want to build, a place that we can go to and talk and have good conversations, because that's something that's missing. And that's something that we're going to build. Shout outs to the Deep Fried Studios, where I'm at right now. So normally y'all watching this be like, where he at? Like, this is where I'm at. I'm here. We got it done. Definitely an upgrade from what I'm used to, because a lot of people know I've been using my phone for years. And shout outs to my phone, because it's worked. I mean, me using my phone has gotten me a lot of opportunities. I mean, shout outs to TNT. I was someone that doesn't get talked about a lot, and I don't really care that it doesn't get talked about a lot, but because it is what it is. But like, let's talk I'm gonna talk about myself for a second. That's why it's been frustrating why I haven't been able to get a look at certain things, which is fine because it wasn't meant for me to do that. It was meant for me to do what I'm doing now. But it's like it was always weird to me that the guy that basically told the whole world on a TNT commercial that the NBA is back couldn't talk about sports in his hometown. Couldn't get a look at, get looked over, get looked over by the good old boy network. So that was always weird. It was always weird when I was getting shown more love from TNT and ESPN than anybody else. I'm like, cause I have the emails and shout outs to ESPN because I'm not gonna say I'm the reason for this, but I know I'm part of the reason. Like when they started showing more fan reactions. Like in the beginning, they were showing like small creators that were actually making content like that. But now it's more of let's not dig deep and find the people that people don't know. Let's just use the bigger name guys that are doing stuff. We're just gonna use them over and over again because we don't have to put in the work. It's just easy. Cause I'm not gonna hold you. There's a few people that have made it big that if you look back at my content, they done took a few things from. I ain't gonna call anybody names out because shout outs to them, and it's not original. Like I took things from other people and made it my own, so they're just taking bits and pieces of things I did, which anybody could come up with, and they're doing their thing with it. Shout outs to them. Like I'm not gonna hate on them for that because sometimes when you think people are ripping you off, they're not really ripping you off. It's just the concept that you're coming up with. It's not that it's a basic idea, but it's an idea that potentially everybody could come up with. So I get it. So I always want to show love to everybody because I know at the end of the day, I'm gonna be alright, and they are as well. So big ups to everybody. So I just want to put that out there because even though the way I'm doing this podcast, in my opinion, is different. It's the first time I'm actually really doing it this way, putting in the effort and you seeing the upgrades. But man, I've been doing stuff for a while now, and I was like, this is the time for this because I can't keep doing things the way I've been doing it. I got to be like, you know what? It's time to step up and do this now and really go forward. Give these people a voice and a place to come to talk about sports and other stuff, whatever you want to talk about. That's what we can always talk about because I'm always open to everything. Something that I'm always open up to is I'm a big UFC fan. So over the weekend, we had UFC 313. And it was it was an event. Let me say you that from a pacing point of view, it flew by, at least until the main event. And that's something I'm a big fan of. I don't like when these events drag because when they drag, I'm like, get it over with already. I'm tired of this. But in the main event, Magomed Ankalaev defeated Alex Pereira by decision. Some people think Pereira actually won that fight. I feel like if I were to break that fight down, I could come up with a raise for either side to have won that fight. And I feel like Magomed had a great game plan. So I'm happy and I understand the reason he won that fight. When it comes to Pereira, I didn't like what he did at all because I felt like had he, who is a kickboxer, had he done more striking in that fight, he would have won that fight. I think he had gotten kind of lazy in the fact that he was been so used to knocking people out and doing so much damage with his hands, and when he wasn't able to do that at first, he was kind of like, all right, that didn't do it. Let me figure this out. Let me do something else. Oh nope, that didn't do it either. let me stuff the takedown. Let me keep doing. And he just didn't have another gear to go where he needed to win that fight. He just didn't. He just didn't have it. And Ankalaev game plan was amazing. So got to show him some love for that. Even though I know in the MMA community, it's pretty split. Alex was a fan favorite, and this is a bad. I'm not gonna say that it's bad because at the end of the day, when it comes to the UFC, they can book the rematch, and because of what happened this past Saturday, it's gonna make people excited to watch Alex beat him. So they can still get a pay-per-view from that. Now, if Alex loses that, okay, now we in trouble when it comes to the UFC. Speaking of being in trouble, Justin Gaethje, who I will admit I did not think was going to win this fight. I thought Justin Gaethje was done. I truly did, because I felt that when you look at his last fight, how he got knocked out by Max Holloway, I thought he was done. I'm like, man, this guy is not going to be able to come back from that. He's already taken a lot of punishment over his career. But for him to come back and put on the performance he did against Rafael Fiziev, who, shout outs to Fiziev, who took this fight on 10-day notice? It was real short. So he took the fight on that, and those two went out and they were banging. They went back and forth. It was great. But I think without a doubt, Gaethje won that fight. It was close though. And I know it's a few people that saying Rafael might have got the decision, should have won that. I wouldn't go that far, but it was definitely a good fight. Definitely fight of the night. And so far, I would probably say it's the fight of the year so far. And in a third fight, this is one of the names that I'm probably gonna butcher, but I think it's Bahamudez. He made Jalen Turner tap out. And after that fight, Jalen Turner retired. Hopefully he doesn't retire. Whatever issues he's dealing with, hopefully he can deal with those issues and come back and fight. He's still a young fighter and has a few years left, so I would like to see him do whatever he can to come back. But make sure your health is the biggest concern. So what was funny about this and how I just did this is that when you look at the names by Mudez, I think I butchered his name, and I find that funny because when you look at fighting, it's that people think people who are fight fans are dumb, but like they kind of are. But they do have their moments, and their moments is when you talk about names. Like when we see certain names, like I can see people reading like Magomed Ankalaev, seeing his name, be like, how do you say that? You ask a MMA fan, they can say that name easy. Even how you say Justin Gaethje's name, it could be like that. And like for me, another one's like when I talk about Valentina Shevchenko, like I can say that name easy. And it's like Rose Namajunas, like something about us as fight fans, we can say these hard names. Now you ask her to say other names, we might be struggling. But we can say these hard names of the fighters that we know over time, we learn how to say their names, or if the name is too tough, we just gonna give them a nickname like Joanna Jacek. People that say Joanna, they just call her Joanna. We were like, we ain't saying Jacek. So I just thought about that when I butchered his name right then. Amanda Lemos had a fight. She beat Lucindo. It was a fight. It was on a main card. Probably should have been on the prelims. I will say this, and this is a hard discussion to have when it comes to the state of women's MMA, and it's something I'm not going to go into detail about it today because it's too long to talk about. A lot of the male mixed martial art fans, well, let's call them the UFC fans, have issues when it comes to women, so they don't show the women the respect that they should. And I'm not somebody who does that. I love women's MMA. Shout outs to Invicta, who is an all female MMA league. I love women's MMA, but I will admit this, that right now, the level that women's MMA is at right now is not very good. Like, these contenders are not getting good. We have some that are great, but for the most part, it is a bit of a struggle. We got to get some more athletes in there and get them trained, build them up, and see where they go, because we do need more. The next couple generations of women's fighters level needs to go up a little bit more, because right now we're in a lull that is like, we still got some greats, but they are struggling. And I want them to be great because I'm a big fan of women's sports in general. Shout outs to the WNBA. So I want to see them be great. And I'm always going to defend them when people talk about them, but it's like, wow, yes, I'm going to defend you. You got to give me something to defend. So, but I do believe that they're going to get there over time. But right now, it is a struggle. But women's MMA is still young. Women's MMA is about where the 2004, 2005 men were when it comes to the evolution of mixed martial arts. So they're not there yet. We're getting there. We're starting to get those athletes, but we're not quite there yet. But it will come. Got to talk about King Green getting knocked out. This man got knocked out so bad, he went back to calling himself Bobby. That's how bad he got knocked out. But he's 38. He's been around the game for a very long time. And I would like to see him retire. It's not going to happen. He's going to probably come back again and do something. But it is what it is when it comes to King Bobby Green. That was UFC 313. Shout outs to all the people involved. It was a great night of fights to me, except if you bought it on ESPN Plus, then you all were struggling to watch that event. But it was good for me. Because I went out and I watched it. That's the best way, in my opinion, to watch the UFC pay-per-views, is to go out and watch it at an establishment. You don't have to worry about the issues with the ESPN Plus as much. We're almost done here with OE Up. I want to go through a few things real fast. Shout outs to ESPN and Stephen A. Smith for agreeing on a 5-year, $100 million contract. So Stephen A. is not going anywhere. Stephen A. was like, show me the money. They were like, okay. So I know he saw the deals that Pat McAfee had and everything. He was like, okay, shout outs to you, McAfee. I know what I need to ask for, and he did it, and he got it, and he's going to stay on. So big ups to him for that. And I know Stephen A. got into it last week with LeBron James about LeBron James' son, Bronny James, and the whole nepotism thing. That's going to be a topic on another episode. The next episode is going to be about Stephen A. and LeBron. So I just wanted to put that out there now. But I had to, and that's what I really wanted to talk about. But I had so much stuff I had to get to first that I was like, I want to touch on it a little bit and then come back next time with it. I want to talk about some NFL moves real fast. We're going to talk about Josh Allen is staying in Buffalo until 2030. The deal is worth $330 million with $250 guaranteed. And DK Metcalf was traded to the Steelers. I don't know what's going on in Seattle, but it don't look good for him. Because not only did they trade DK Metcalf, they also traded their starting quarterback, Geno Smith, to the Las Vegas Raiders. So Geno is now a Raider. He is reunited with his old coach, Pete Carroll. So shout outs to them for getting their quarterback because they needed a quarterback bad. The Rams signed Devontae Adams to a deal. The Browns told Myles Garrett, we ain't going to trade you. You ain't going nowhere. We know how to make you happy. And that's by giving you a 4-year, $160 million extension. He's going to be making $40 million a year with $123.5 million guaranteed. The highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. And I talked about earlier how the Rams how the Rams got Devontae, but they also are keeping Matthew Stafford, who was a player that a lot of people thought could be leaving. But they were like, nah, we good. We like you, man. We did good. Come on, stay with us. You ain't got to go nowhere. Now, Cooper Kupp, you got to go. But Matthew Stafford, come on back, man. And we talked about the Raiders gave up a 3rd-round pick for Geno Smith. And that's pretty much all that we have for you today on OB Up. I hope you all like the show. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the show. And if you have any critiques or anything you want to tell me, go in the comment section. Leave them. I always look at everything, and I will try to improve on that, as I'm going to do everything I can to keep improving everything. So I appreciate all the feedback. And if you want to help a brother out, you can always go to my Cash App, or you can go to YouTube, Jonathan Lymon Brand, and become a member of my YouTube. You can always support the I Need a Haircut Fund, which is what I have on YouTube. And if you want to do the Cash App, that's Jonathan Lymon Brand for the I Need a Haircut Fund, which came up as a joke years back when I was making reaction videos, and they were like clown me. They were like, man, you need a haircut. I was like, all right, I'm gonna make fun of this. We're gonna make this a thing. So that's what we do now with the I Need a Haircut Fund, because being nappy is a terrible thing. All right, my name is Jonathan Lyman, and until I see you all again, I'm gone. All right.
That was good, man. You didn't say an in the whole thing.
Oh.
That's what the editor hears all day. And you know.
I try not to.
That was good, man.
Thank you.
All right. So I keep this a couple months just in case something